And welcome to the Texas Talks podcast. I'm your host, Brad Swale. Today is another in the Future of Texas podcast series in partnership with Texas 2036, where we explore the decisions shaping our state between now and the bicentennial in 2036. Today's question, does opportunity in Texas reach every Texan? Texas is the 8th largest economy in the world. Enrollment in Texas higher education hit an all-time record of 1.6 million students this past fall. And right now, as this episode releases, Texas is in the heart of graduation season. Students crossing stages with high school diplomas, technical certificates, associate's degrees, and four-year diplomas. The question isn't whether Texas is growing. It is. The question is whether the opportunity that growth creates reaches every community and every family, no matter what credential they pursue or where they live. To talk about that, Wynn Rosser, Commissioner of Higher Education for the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, and John Hryhorchuk, Senior Vice President of Policy and Advocacy at Texas 2036, whose team has spent years building the research and advocacy that connects education to real economic opportunity. Wynn, John, thank you so much to both of you for being here.
Glad to, Brad. Looking forward to it.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it, John. I'm always happy to have you back. I think this is your fourth one. So, Commissioner Rosser, I want to ask you. You've been in and around Texas higher education for what? More than 30 years?
About 30, yeah.
About 30 years? That's longer. It took me almost that long to get my college degree. Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are now?
Sure. Texas has been home to my family for 9 generations, including our children. The future of our state matters a great deal to me. We are, as you said, the 8th largest economy in the world. Texas has more 16 to 24-year-olds than 21 states have total population. We've got a tremendous opportunity. We have a youthful population. We have a growing economy. 1 out of every 10 jobs in the country is in Texas. But then I think the question about opportunity and are we preparing those young Texans for the economy of today and the economy of the future, that's really what drives me. This is personal. It's not a job. It's a life's work. And I'm where I am because my dad was a first-generation college student. And along the way, I've accumulated an associate's degree and an undergrad, master's, doctorate, a level 1 certificate. And I realized the value as a second-generation college student, what it meant for my dad to go to college and earn that first degree that mattered in the labor market at the time. And I want that for more Texans. And I think, again, given the size of our youth population, the size of our economy, we have the opportunities. We just need to line education and training up to those opportunities.
Yeah. So just to circle back just a moment ago, you said you have an associate, a bachelor's, a doctorate, and a level 1 certificate?
Yes.
Did you start with the associate's degree and you worked your way up?
Well, I started taking college classes the summer after I finished high school.
Yeah.
I went to a small rural East Texas school. Dual credit wasn't really a thing then.
Sure.
But what I could do was take classes in the summer. So I took 27 hours over 2 summers and transferred those to Texas A&M, and those went towards my bachelor's degree. I did my associate's degree by reverse transfer, and so sent my transcripts back to Kilgore College. They evaluated my coursework and decided that I'd earned an associate's degree.
I'm glad they decided that. I'm sure you were happy to hear it. So you've said that the Texas story isn't written yet. What do you mean by that?
Well, we're actively shaping the future of Texas right now with the choices that we make in the legislature, where our economic development priorities are, the policies we put in place for K-12 and higher ed and workforce. We have a booming economy, again, the 8th largest in the world. We'll probably say that several more times today. We have this large youth population. The final chapter has not been written. We have possibilities and opportunities that many states don't have because of the resources, the decisions that have been made by the legislature over the years, and because of the commitment of the K-12 sector, the higher ed sector, to align our education, again, towards those opportunities. We have good jobs across the state. We just need to do a better job of lining up the education and training to those jobs.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about that lining up in today's conversation. John, I want to ask you, Texas 2036 has been tracking the gap between where the state is and where it needs to go. But that's, I think, the whole point of Texas 2036. What does the data tell us about the size of the opportunity that we're in now and sort of the urgency?
So when we think about the 8th largest economy in the world,
Is it the eighth largest?
It is the eighth. I like to think about it in terms of this concept of 90, 60, 30. About 90% of our students graduate from high school in a given year. About 60% pursue some sort of post-secondary education, and about 30% actually achieve some sort of post-secondary completion. And so each one of those things is a half-life in terms of potential. Our economic projections are that 60, 70% of jobs in the out years are going to require some type of degree or credential, not necessarily a full bachelor's, but that extra tier of education beyond just high school. And, we have made really big strides as a state. The numbers are going up. It is progressing, but we're not yet where we need to be. And I'm really happy about the things the legislature has passed in recent years to help move that needle. But we need to get to that point where we are not just hitting the marker for simply hitting data and projection purposes, but like every one of those percentages is a real human life at Texan who will have a better opportunity for themselves and their family if they're able to achieve that next year of education.
Yeah. Commissioner Rosser, you just touched on this a little bit ago, that pipeline. I think you've been especially focused on reaching students earlier and earlier, middle school. And when I was in high school, it was just high school. I never really thought about college and middle school. I mean, I guess whatever, maybe a little bit, but I didn't think about getting credits. Why does the pipeline need to start that far back? Well, why did, when I was in middle school, it wasn't a thing, but now it is. Well, why does it need to be that way?
Well, as John just outlined, we have and have had an emphasis on completion for a number of years. I think what's different now is the emphasis on the completion of a credential of value, a credential where there's ROI to the student, where there's labor market demand, and where wages mean it pays off for the student to earn that credential. So we are focusing earlier because we need students to be college ready. Yeah. And that means they need to be taking the right math classes in middle school so that in high school they can get to hopefully pre-calculus to set them up to take calculus in college if they want to be an engineer or a scientist. We also, as John pointed out, we have a large number of students who don't enroll in higher education after they graduate high school. We've been awarding associate's degrees in the thousands to students before they finish high school for almost 2 decades because of our approach to early college high school, our strong dual credit policy. We now, with the FAST program, most students in Texas qualify for no-cost dual credit. What we need to do is ensure that the students that want to take an academic path are prepared academically, meaning they're prepared in writing and reading and mathematics, and that the students that would rather take a workforce path can take those workforce classes while they're in high school. So, John just went 90, 60, 30. Well, there's about 40% of the students who don't pursue higher education beyond high school, and we have a real opportunity to accelerate their workforce preparation through our dual credit policy, through career technical education in high school, and have more students earning post-secondary credentials in workforce areas before they finish high school. So on the one hand, it's academic preparation, ensuring students have the rigor they need in their high school experience to be college ready and succeed in college. And on the other hand, we need more students going into the workforce programs and entering the economy, fulfilling those jobs that our communities rely on. And we have this policy that Texas has been working on really going back about 2 decades to ensure that we have the resources, the curricular design, and the opportunities for students to do just that so they can graduate on Friday and go to work on Monday with a credential that matters in the economy.
Well, I think that what Wynn's talking about in terms of dual credit is such an important Texas story, because we're talking here about how do we make opportunity reach, 370,000, young people per year. How do we have it reach 254 counties? There are, through dual credit, we are talking about high school students still in the mandatory attendance phase, getting, generally speaking, free access to higher education in their communities, in their schools, without the extra hurdles and steps of moving away and all that. It's such a great way of making higher education more accessible, showing that young person that this is a viable pathway for them. And regardless of which route they go, if it's workforce or if it's academic, it creates a psychological impact on that individual that says, I can do this. I am that kind of person. And then when we look at the longitudinal data, it's clear when we look at are you ready for college? What's a really good way of telling whether or not you're ready for college? Well, if you've already taken college level courses and succeeded, you tend to do much better when you actually enroll at a four-year institution. And if you're taking the CTE dual credit coursework, you're typically earning thousands of dollars more after high school graduation than your peers that didn't. Either route has real long-term benefits for students.
Yeah.
And in that case, too, not only do we offer dual credit, but this cost is a really big deal. In the 88th legislative session, House Bill 8 passed. The governor signed it. That is our new approach to community college finance. Texas is the first state to condition 95, or at least the majority of funding, 95% of in our case, on outcomes. But one of the things that was also included in House Bill 8 was financial aid for swift transfer or dual credit financial aid. And so students who qualify for free and reduced price lunch now have access to no-cost dual credit. So that's the opportunity that John's talking about. Previous to that legislation, we still had a lot of students taking dual credit, but if you were in a rural area, the colleges couldn't offer no-cost dual credit like the more urban areas could. And so now, that opportunity is available across the state. I think our challenge is, can we help the school districts, their higher ed partners, and families understand how an academic route or a workforce route might be best for their student at that point in time, and then make sure the opportunities are there for them to pursue the credential that they want.
So, we're talking about dual credit all the way back into middle school, like starting that pipeline back in middle school.
Ninth grade, typically.
Ninth grade, okay. That's still freshman year of high school. That's pretty young to be getting college credits. Great, and certainly encourage that more. I guess my question is, if a freshman if that's accessible to a freshman, of course they have the choice not to do it, but hopefully they do. Is there a world in which every high school student, just based on the curriculum that they're offered, just the standard curriculum, exits high school with some credits? Some, like everybody gets a dual credit for something. You mentioned taking pre-calculus in high school so that they could take calculus if they want to be an engineer. But you go to college and there's countless classes that people take. It's not everyone's going to be an engineer. But is there a world where everyone exits high school with dual credit?
Well, one of the things we have to ensure is that students are college ready.
Sure.
And so all the students we're talking about that take advantage of dual credit while they're in high school satisfy the same requirements to be college ready as an 18-year-old who graduates and enrolls in a college or a university in the more traditional route. And so that's the first thing. So college ready is a pretty high standard.
Sure.
And but beyond that, is there a place where every student gets either a workforce opportunity for a dual credit class or an academic opportunity? Sure.
Yeah.
Could be English language arts, could be mathematics, could be science, could be history or government. So the curricular routes are there. We have the policy, we have the financing. Then it comes down to, is that an experience that every student would value? We know one of the early reasons for moving into a robust dual credit policy was because the dual credit classes increase the rigor of the high school experience. And so from that perspective alone, a student taking a more advanced class, a college class in high school, the rigor of the high school experience goes up, and that's a predictor of later college success.
Yeah.
So I do want to add that just this last year, the second legislative special session, they passed House Bill 8, which was traditionally it was in the regular session. It was in House Bill 2 and House Bill 120, where they redefined the goals of public education so that every high school student, what they're set out to achieve, it's that you should graduate with the skills and credentials to immediately enter the workforce and a demand field, and have the college readiness background necessary to achieve should you choose to do so. And so this idea of should everyone have the ability to do it, that is now the goal of our public education, is for everyone to have at least the option to choose these routes so that they can be career ready when they graduate from high school. Then in the special session, they came in and made the assessment accountability system align with those new goals and really kind of double down on this idea that earning a credential in high school is among the most valuable things that you can do from a career readiness perspective, because there's true marketplace ROI. That builds on the reforms that Commissioner Rosser was talking about in a different House Bill 8 from 2023 that made the attainment of a credential in high school arguably the most lucrative thing in all of Texas public education, because you get the higher ed outcomes bonus for dual credit, you get the higher ed outcomes bonus for completion, and you get the K-12 outcomes bonus for having a student graduate career ready because they've gotten that credential. And so there are multiple different funding streams for incentive funding that kind of blend together to really say that when you do this in high school, the state is putting its money where its mouth is, kind of literally here.
Yeah.
It is the most valuable thing the data shows for a student, and the state is saying that it is the thing that we are going to incent so that every child can have that opportunity if they're ready and they want to seek it.
Yeah.
And likewise, I mean, this you have to think about decades of sound policy where none of the things that John and I are talking about happened in one legislative session. We've been doing this, making positive steps for at least 2 decades. How we think about, we've moved from just attainment only of a post-secondary credential to an attainment of a credential of value. We want there to be ROI to the student and ROI to the state. How do we do that? Well, we're incentivizing the colleges to produce credentials in high-demand fields aligned to the economy, where there are wages. And so think again, you think this isn't just an education play. This is K-12, higher ed, the workforce, economic development. Because if you look at the future of our state's economy, you can look at the things that the economic development incentives are in place for around pharmaceutical manufacturing, space, aerospace, advanced manufacturing, nuclear energy, clean energy. That's the economy of the future while we still serve the current economy. And again, that's part of the Texas story. That's why the last chapter hasn't been written yet.
Yeah.
We're actively shaping the future of the state from economic development and education of the workforce.
So, John, Texas 2036 has championed some high school programs, models that have produced some pretty great results. Partnership with South Texas that increased industry certifications by more than 45 percentage points. What's working and what does it tell us is possible at scale?
Yeah, I think those reforms that we were talking about a little bit earlier, both redefining the goals of public education, aligning the accountability system to it, and having already aligned the finance system to it, that is going to build on these successful models. So there are some of them, like the one you mentioned, are the kind of in this. It quickly becomes a jargon world when we start talking about these things, RPEPs and PTECs and all that kind of stuff.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. The RSIZs, they exist, they're wonderful, and they're really embedded around this idea of, in some cases, it's a high school where you can get your full credential before you graduate. In others, like the ones in South Texas, it's often a scenario where multiple communities have gotten together because they themselves can't offer, they're too small of districts. They can't offer the welding and the nursing and the whatever. And so they'll allow the students to move between them, and that worked out the finances so that they're all, better off at the end. It's really inspiring to see the kind of innovation that has emerged. And then we at Texas 2036 have gone out there in the field and tried to look at what is working and how can we support that further growth. We had the great opportunity in one of your previous roles to look at some of the innovation that was coming out of Lufkin and the Deep East Texas regional area and go, that is really good. Y'all are making great outcomes. How can we scale that? How can we remove the friction so that it can become an opportunity for 1,200 school districts, not just 12?
So, Commissioner Rosser, for Texas families, going to college means one thing. I mean, it's go get a 4-year degree, go to a university, go to a community college, or get a 4-year degree, go to a community college, transfer to a university, whatever, right? 4-year degree. That's really what people think about a lot for a lot of families. But that's not all. I mean, you and your agency have worked hard to, expand that menu a little bit. What are the options on the table for a kid graduating today, and how can people sort of figure that out? A family, a junior, a rising senior this year, thinking about college next year, or maybe there's other options. How do they find that out?
Well, the first thing I would encourage students and families to do is visit mytexasfuture.org. It is our one-stop shop for college career advising. A student can go on as early as middle school and answer a few questions, about 6 questions, get insight into careers aligned to their interests, and then the credentials that are necessary to access that career. And it might be a certificate, it might be a bachelor's degree or beyond. But that site also brings in labor market data. So in partnership with the Texas Workforce Commission, we're able to include real demand today, growth projections, and Texas wages at the regional level. And then we also include which institutions offer those degrees or credentials. And so really quickly, you can identify that there are career fields aligned to your interest, and then what institution do you choose, or which institutions might you want to consider to pursue that interest. So it could be a career technical college, a community college, or one of our state's universities. And we have institutions across the state that can help students achieve their hopes and dreams and pursue their interests. But first, we need to help students just understand what the landscape is. And you're correct. For too many families, the only understanding of a post-secondary education is a university degree. But we have a lot of good jobs that take some level of education and training beyond high school, but not necessarily a bachelor's degree. And so one of the things that's most important to me is that we continue communicating the need for bachelor's degrees. We need more doctors, scientists, engineers, teachers, nurses, and other professions that depend on a bachelor's degree. But we also have these huge workforce needs that, again, require some education and training beyond high school. Could be an apprenticeship, could be a short-term certificate, or up to an associate of applied science in one of the workforce areas. And how we help students respectfully make a choice that's best for them at that moment in time in terms of debt, time to degree, and most importantly, what are they interested in and what do they want to do as their life's work. That's the opportunity we have through My Texas Future and other tools. We work with our state's K-12 guidance counselors through an initiative called Texas On Course, where we send information out to about 19,000 counselors about how to use My Texas Future and other tools so that in high school, middle school even, counselors can provide information to students, help them use My Texas Future, for example, to learn about careers, maybe do a budget based on earnings and what does it take to support a family, and also to start making those plans about, this is my institution of choice. I'm going to pursue a specific credential and enter a career field. And again, in our economy, with the number of jobs we have, there is a place for everyone, regardless if you earn a certificate all the way up to a research doctorate. And so that's both our opportunity and our challenge with this large youth population. How do we help them navigate towards something that is of interest to them, of economic meaning to them and to the state?
Yeah. Why did that change? I mean, when I was I'm just going to speak from my experience. Obviously, I can't speak from other people's, but when I was in high school, it was go to university. These vocational colleges or whatever, going plumber, HVAC, that sort of stuff, the common examples, those were never really presented to me as an option. I don't know what I would have done if it was, but how did we get to that point, and why are we changing that now?
I think there's a growing awareness of the need for a skilled workforce, again, from certifications all the way up to research doctorates. We now have the labor market data. There may have been a perception at one point that one credential isn't as valuable to another. Well, we now know because of the labor market data we have access to, the wage data we have access to, what different professions earn on average in the Texas economy. We have employers who are talking about the skilled workforce they need and the trouble they have recruiting a skilled workforce, even as our colleges and universities produce more graduates than they ever have in the past. So I think Brad, it's maybe a misperception about the economic value, maybe a little bit about some things are more prestigious than others. But I come from a family that gets their hands dirty for a living, and it's important to me that young people have the information they need, again, to make a respectful choice about what is best for them. And in this economy, we have a place for you if you earn a certificate all the way up to a research doctorate.
Yeah. John, I mean, Texas 2036 is all about data. You're a data guy, right? We're talking about the future of Texas here. All these certificates and all the different options beyond just the 4-year degree. Is there data that says that, that even today, like 10 years from now, those careers are still going to be high demand?
Yeah. I mean, one of the great things about it is when you're earning the degree, you're learning something, right? Your brain is growing, all that. That's not to say you'll never need to go back and learn something new again as the world changes. New tools come along. Suddenly AI drops into the world. We all have to go figure out how to use Claude over the weekend. But there's there's constantly going to be this need for lifelong learning, regardless of one's career. But that doesn't mean that people should be scared of some indefinite future and not achieve what's immediately in front of them and possible, whether we're talking about a short-term credential or that research doctorate at the end of it. So, I mean, in my personal opinion, I think of it as just like, Commissioner Rosser talking about his life journey and all those steps there.
Yeah.
All of this education that we get, all these career exploration opportunities, all the work that we do allows us to make that next step in a much more intelligent way. So one of my favorite stories that we like to hear is the individuals who go off and earn those skilled trades certificates and then subsequently get a business degree and own the company and start hiring people and growing businesses. These aren't things that like stop your career. It is a stepping stone onto bigger and better things, or it can be what you do and have a very fulfilling long-term career.
Yeah.
Like it's the opportunities are endless. The pathways are endless. To me, I just think it's about acknowledging the dignity and the dignity pairing it up with the fact that the wages are pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Gets the incentives a little bit more aligned.
Yeah. Well, let's just say I didn't go to college for podcasting, so I had to learn this at some point along the way.
I have 2 degrees in agriculture and haven't worked in the field since 1992. So I think if we give a couple of examples, so pretty widely regarded that we need more health professionals from physicians, nurses, and technicians. So health professions is going to be a growing career field for decades. We have a lot of infrastructure being built, and that will need to be built in service of the economy. So you can think about the construction trades as a growing sector of the economy. If you look at just the associate's degree, just the community colleges, most students who enroll in the Texas Community College enroll in the General Studies Liberal Arts Associates. That's the degree path you would pursue if you want to transfer to a university and earn a baccalaureate. But most students actually don't end up transferring and earning a baccalaureate. And if you earn that General Studies Liberal Arts Associate's degree and don't transfer, your first year wages are going to be about $30,000. If you earn an associate's degree on average, any of the health professions, any of the construction trades, your first year wages are around $60,000. By year 10, the health professions, the construction trades get up to $80,000, and the General Studies Liberal Arts Associate's degree has made it up only to $60,000 by year 10. So the year 10 wages for that General Studies Liberal Arts Associates, the academic associates, is about half of what those workforce associates is in year 1. We have to help more people understand that. It's an educational success. It's an academic success. It's honorable work. And our communities only thrive if we have HVAC technicians. I mean, how much will a Texan pay in August to have someone come work on there?
How much money do I have?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So HVAC technicians, electricians, plumbers, commercial truck drivers, all the health professions, construction trades, advanced manufacturing, sector by sector, there are high demand, good jobs that pay well above the state median self-sustaining wage in each of those sectors. So how we help young people understand that respectfully, a tool like My Texas Future helps. We need high school guidance counselors. We need caring adults helping students navigate towards an experience that's best for them, as opposed to defaulting everyone to what we think is best for them, or the common mythology, you just need to go to get a baccalaureate. And we still need more baccalaureates. I'll put that pitch in again too.
Sure, we need it all. So let's talk about investment. Obviously, none of this is possible without proper investments. HB 8 fundamentally changed how Texas funds community colleges. It switched from sort of enrollment to outcomes. Commissioner Rosser, can you talk us through what that transformation means for students walking through the door of a community college today, and what the Texas State Technical College, voters overwhelmingly approved this. So what does all of that mean for us here as Texans?
Yeah, well, with Texas State Technical College, they have almost $1 billion endowment now for facilities to grow their campuses, and so that was.
I mean, that's a big endowment. That's bigger than a lot of
big investment for the state of Texas to make into a institution that offers career credentials, right?
I mean, it's not UT level, obviously, endowment, but like there's universities across, like famous universities across the state in the United States that don't have that level of endowment.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's so it took a bill that the governor signed, and it took a constitutional amendment. So it is an investment by the state of Texas. So The other thing that is important there when you talk about the community colleges and TSTC, their funding models are different, but the thing is that is the same is that they focus on employability, they focus on wages, and they focus on high demand. And so I think the opportunity we have with House Bill 8 is, one, there are academic outcomes that are funded, and two, there are workforce-oriented outcomes that are funded. So, overall attainment. Are we awarding credentials and more credentials? Are we awarding credentials of value? Again, those that have a break-even point for the student and an ROI. Are we awarding 15 hours at a minimum of dual credit to students? Or are we transferring students from the community college to the university? All of those are fundable outcomes. But we also recognize this notion of high demand fields. So all of those sectors of the economy that I mentioned earlier, manufacturing, healthcare, the construction trades, those all have high demand occupations in them. And if the community colleges graduate students with a credential in those fields, they get even more funding because they're serving the economy. So getting a student into a high demand field with a credential of value is good for the student, it's good for the state, it's good for our local communities.
Yeah. John, Texas 2036 has worked closely with the commission, that developed HB 8. What did the old system get wrong? And going beyond funding, what does the data show needs to change?
Well, what I really think that the HB8 got right is narrowing in on these three key things that Commissioner Rosser just talked about: dual credit, transfer, and completion. And then there are weights and bonuses that you throw on top of that. But these three core things that we're trying to get right, and then making the state's portion of the investment in community colleges overwhelmingly tied towards that. So it is a big amount of a budget. The previous process was well-intentioned, but there were so many different things you could do. I think it was 12 or 14 different outcomes. And it was also, a smaller portion of the overall community college budget. So the community colleges would find themselves fighting over a smaller pieces of a fixed pie for all these different bonuses. Now we have a really great problem in Texas, which is that we have these goals. The community colleges are responding so strongly to the incentives that we put in front of them that every session we keep on coming back and the cost of outcomes are increasing. That is exactly what you want to see in a functioning system, because that means that there are more students in Texas that are getting the credentials necessary to align with the workforce demands of our state and grow our economy. So in a healthy world, seeing a thriving outcomes-based funding system means that costs will increase over time.
So what does that look like? What does it look like over the next 10 years, though? Like, is that like we're going to build on top of that, and what does that look like?
In a perfect world, what we're going to continue to see is a pretty steady increase in the completion of associate's degrees that are tailored to the local labor market. We'll also see, I think there's some work that needs to be done on the short-term credentials. We're still gathering data to make that all work out so that formula can be perfected. But when you think about a world where, going back a few minutes ago, we're talking about what can be achieved in high school. And then we're also talking about getting to those 40% of individuals who pursued no post-secondary education after high school. There is a huge market of Texans that are going to be able to access higher education, and community college will often be the vector for accessing that higher education. And if they are successful, and we want them to succeed, there will be outcomes bonuses there in their future. So that is a really exciting trajectory of increased post-secondary completion that our state has already laid the foundation for.
So, Commissioner Rosser, cost and debt are sort of big barriers for Texas families when they're talking about post-secondary, universities, colleges, really anything. I mean, maybe not community college, or maybe community college less so. But Texas has set an unusual goal on this. Can you explain it and tell us why a family listening today should feel confident about that investment into a credential?
Texas has a manageable debt goal, but before I talk about that, I want to say there's a perception about cost that often isn't correct. Community colleges, universities offer financial aid in addition to the federal and state financial aid to students. And so really to get a full picture, the student needs to go through the process, talk to someone at the community college or the university about what would the real cost to the student be, not just kind of the sticker price. We have a manageable debt goal in Texas. In Building a Talent Strong Texas, our statewide plan for higher education from 2020 to 2030, we have a goal that 95% of Texas graduates have manageable debt. And in Texas, that's defined as debt that the graduate can repay based on the credential they earned within 10 years. And the good news is we've already surpassed that goal. 97.5% of Texas graduates have manageable debt. The bigger deal is 60% of Texas graduates have no debt at all. And of those that do, the average is less than $25,000. So often you see national stories about out-of-control debt for higher education. And are there individuals that have six-figure debt? Yes. But on average, in Texas, most students have no debt at all. And of those that do, it's $25,000 or less. So again, thinking about the sticker price, available aid, and then what would the net price to the student be is really the most important thing to understand. And so the students need to talk to the institutions where they want to enroll and get a better understanding of what the cost would be.
Yeah, just to repeat that back to you to make sure I understood it, 97.5% of graduates are on track to pay it off within 10 years?
Correct. Yeah, manageable debt.
Manageable debt. 60% have no debt. And of that 40% that do have debt, how much is less than $25,000?
On average, it's less than $25,000.
On average, less than. I mean, that's the exact opposite of what I hear every time I log on to social media.
Yeah, again, that's part of the Texas story. The Texas story is not what you see in the national headlines. We know 80% of Texas students and families believe higher education is important to the student's future. We have record enrollments in higher education. So again, there's this national story about a lack of confidence in higher education. That's not the Texas story. Students are showing up. We have manageable debt or no debt. And that's part of the opportunity that we have.
So I want to, again, focus, you're talking about the Texas story. The national story might be different.
Could be.
Yeah. Okay.
If you open up the Wall Street Journal, you're going to get, scary stories about recent graduates not being able to find jobs. But if you open up TWC's labor market data, you see every month, every quarter, Texas is adding more jobs. Wages continue to go up. Our economy is thriving in this state. It is an incredible place to be generally, but a great place to be a recent college graduate from the perspective of having opportunities out there. We have more jobs open than we're able to fill. It's how we're able to keep on growing as a state. And one of the things that I know we've looked at, because a lot of the experiences that are coloring the perception you're describing are caused by, past life experiences that might have been real. We as an organization have been trying to look at what happens to those individuals who did some college but didn't complete the degree.
Yeah.
Because they're often the ones that show, in the labor market data, they have accrued debt but don't necessarily have the wages that correspond to it. And what are the opportunities that exist for, retroactively looking at reverse transfers or acknowledgement of that what we call earned but not awarded credential attainment. But then on a more prospective basis, how do we restructure the college experience so you have a lot more of the embedded micro-credentials so that if you do drop out short of 120 credit hours, you are leaving with something that has labor market value, can help you with that economic mobility.
Yeah. You did 120 hours, you could probably do something else, right? You have some sort of marketability, right? That would be great. So Commissioner Rosser, for students and families deciding right now, are there tools on the THECB website that they can use to sort of help figure out all of the, the affordability and all that stuff?
Brad, one of the things that I would go back to is My Texas Future, mytexasfuture.org. That is the one-stop shop. It should be the first thing that families and students look at. It connects to Apply Texas. We have, which is our state application for higher education. We have direct admissions. And so, again, through My Texas Future, a student can answer a few questions about their academic standing, grades, their SAT, ACT scores, and learn where they would be automatically admitted to a university in Texas. They click a button, go over to Apply Texas, and they can go through the application process and be officially admitted to the university. We have Free College Application Week. That's the second full week of October.
And this is new. This is like a brand new thing. Can you?
Be the second year of Free College Application Week. Again, legislation that passed last legislative session. This will be the second year, second full week of October. No application fees in the state of Texas through Apply Texas. So students can apply to as many institutions as they would like that week. So Again, part of the policies that we've been pursuing to create access, to take away barriers to higher education, to lower the perceived risk to pursue higher education. It's all part of this much larger story about opportunity in our state.
Yeah, I want to build on the removing barriers to higher education, because there was another thing that happened last session that I think is personally really cool that had to do with higher education in Texas prisons. The legislature passed some changes in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Sunset Bill that are going to make it a lot easier for those Texans who are currently incarcerated to access community college coursework, higher education generally, and then when they're released, because almost everyone who goes to a Texas prison is released, they're going to have those same career-line credentials of value, but in a way that allow them to find jobs, grow their family, re-enter society in a meaningful and productive way. It's kind of one of those rare win-win-win things. It's great for the schools. They're going to be able to get the outcomes bonuses. Generally speaking, we're talking about adult learners. It's a pretty good weight.
Yeah.
It's great for the individual who is able to find gainful employment, support their families, and stay out of prison. And it's great for society writ large. There's less crime. There's less recidivism. That also saves the state long-term financially. So it's a great thing where higher education is getting at populations that people don't necessarily think about.
So John, I mean, Texas 2036, you guys do tons of research on all this stuff, affordability, access, outcomes, all that. Is there anything that, policymakers or families should know about right now or in the future that maybe they're not thinking about?
And one thing that really excites me is in the next year or so, we're going to be able to have much more granular data in terms of where individuals are working, what kind of jobs they're going into. That's going to allow us to have, again, thinking about this as a 254 county economic development strategy. Historically, a lot of our labor market data has been siloed in a way that makes it very good for our big cities, which, to be fair, are a big portion of our economy. But it has had blind spots in rural Texas and smaller and mid-sized cities. And we're closing that gap because of legislation that passed in 2025. And so as that gets implemented, as it rolls out, we're going to be able to see how we can support those mid-sized communities and smaller communities, how we can tailor the programs that are offered at their community colleges to fill the jobs that are in their communities, so Texans can find that pathway to opportunity without necessarily having to leave home. That is something that really makes me excited about the future in terms of what is possible for data-driven policy. Still a few more months to go before that starts rolling in, but it's I know a lot of us have been working on that for a while and will be excited to see what it looks like.
Yeah. Commissioner Rosser, this is Future of Texas podcast series with Texas 2036, talking about the bicentennial. So we're 10 years away from the bicentennial. If Texas gets this right, everything we've talked about, the credentials, the pipeline, the menu of options, all of this, the access, everything like that. What does Texas look like in 2036? What's the economy look like? What's the family look like? What's the average Texan look like?
Well, we have a state leadership, the governor, the legislature that believe in the future of Texas and are investing in the industries of the future, while at the same time ensuring that we have the policy in place to educate the workforce we need today for today's industry. So I think economically, the future of our state looks bright. We have a solid, stable youth population. Again, more young Texans than 21 states have total population. So that's both our challenge and our opportunity, as we've been talking today. We have jobs and a lot of them. They're good jobs. We need to ensure that Texans are prepared to enter those jobs. And so all the things John and I have been talking about regarding aligned K-12 and higher ed policy, dual credit, opportunities to pursue their academic credentials or workforce credentials while you're in high school. All of those things give us the policies we need to ensure that more Texans enter the workforce prepared, not only to succeed individually, but to help our employers thrive and succeed, and to help communities thrive and succeed. So I think, in 10 years, if we continue making the progress that we've made, we should remain the number one place to do business. We should remain the best place in the country to raise a family or to start a business. So I think the future of our state is bright. And again, that's what gives me hope to do the work that I do every day.
Yeah, I think that what Commissioner Rosser just laid out is such a great policy framework for thinking about the potential of our state.
Yeah.
So when I see all these pieces coming together, we as a state have the opportunity to be the onshoring, reshoring capital of the world. We are, uniquely situated to rebuild America, right? Like the entire industrial base. We have the technical colleges, the community colleges, the how-to, the tax structures, everything to think about what does it look like for, as goes Texas, so goes America, as goes America, so goes the world. We're doing it today in our classrooms, in our universities. We are building the structures necessary to support not just a short-term growth. We've had, 26 years of uninterrupted Texas miracle. It's been pretty fantastic. But what about the rest of the century? And that foundation is being laid now so that as we approach our bicentennial and look past it, our economic potential is one way of measuring it, but the human potential, the ability for, 31 million, maybe 45 million as we, move on, Texans, will eventually be the biggest state. We're going to pass California, in a few years. We'll be talking about not being the 8th largest economy, but being the 7th, maybe the 6th.
Yeah.
That potential, we are doing that with our human capital investments right now. And it is so exciting as our human capital investments are aligning with other investments that the legislature has been making in our universities, like the semiconductor efforts, the space efforts that you mentioned earlier. All those things, we are making very smart investments in that future. I'm pretty excited about what it looks like in 2036 and beyond.
So, I guess from the Texas 2036 standpoint, you guys are, again, all about data and everything. And it was founded on the idea of what are we going to look like in 2036.
Mm-hmm.
What are the indicators that y'all are watching right now to know that we're on track?
Yeah, fortunately, the indicators we're looking at are the same ones that Commissioner Rosser's looking at. The Building a Talent Strong Texas plan is, the successor to what was earlier the 60 by 30 plan. Well, what is that 60 in there? That's go back to that 90-60-30 concept we talked about. The idea that 60% of our young people should have some sort of degree or credential by the year 2030 was the galvaning principle behind a lot of the early momentum in the mid-2010s.
Yeah.
And so as we're looking at it, yes, we want to continue having a great high school graduation rate, but we want to make sure that we're having a completion rate of post-secondary that's in that 60 to 70% range, that's moving up from the mid-30s into that. That is such a huge indicator. And it's not just any post-secondary completion, mind you. We want to make sure that they're creating or obtaining those credentials of value that allow them to have wages that allow them to support a family, because that's what this is all about. It's not just about, GDP is a very important figure, but it is not the totality of human existence. We want to make sure that humans and families that live in Texas are able to thrive and have the self-determination necessary to achieve the Texas dream.
Yeah, I love that the GDP is not, there's more to life than just the GDP.
It is important.
No, don't get me wrong. I know it's important for sure, but there's I don't know, it doesn't measure everything.
Makes a lot of other things possible, though.
That's true. It absolutely does. So as far as the legislature is concerned, I'll start with you, Commissioner Rosser. What do you need from lawmakers to keep this momentum going?
Well, everything that we propose this next legislative session will be consistent with Building a Talent Strong Texas, focused on overall attainment. Right now, we're at about 55% of the Texas population having a post-secondary credential on the way to that 60% goal. We started at around 48%, so we've made good progress in the first 5 years of the plan. We're working on attaining 550,000 annual credentials of value. We think we'll meet that goal based largely on the short-term credentials that the community colleges are now really focused on awarding. This year's freshman class is the last university freshman class that can contribute to that 2030 goal with bachelor's degrees and beyond. And the affordability will remain a priority for us. So we'll continue to focus on financial aid. We'll be focused on continuing to ensure that Texas remains affordable. And I think the other couple of things that came out of the 89th session that we'll for sure be leading on are the General Education Advisory Committee or the core curriculum. The legislature directed us to look at ways to streamline the core, so notionally reducing from 42 hours to 36 or 30 hours. We're making recommendations about that in a few months. Then also, we were charged with bringing a committee together of representatives appointed by the university systems in the state to make recommendations for performance-based funding for universities. So somewhat like the community college model that John and I have been talking about, there'll be recommendations coming to the 90th session of the legislature to have a model based on outcomes for the university, but one that'll be very different really for the university context, But again, Texas investing in higher education through outcomes, investing in the future of the economy through economic development, and again, all in service of creating this great place to live and work, raise a family.
Yeah. John, is there anything that the legislature can do about the students that are still left behind?
We could certainly look at that retroactive credential opportunities. I think there's also things that we can do to better leverage the data that will be coming in order to tailor our programs for the future economy. We need to have, it gets really nerdy data wonky stuff, but we're Texas 2036. That's our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
How do we make it so decision makers like Commissioner Rosser and elected officials have access to data much more quickly so they can tailor the programs and respond? So it's, we're not talking about an entire graduating class passing before we're able to answer questions. There are a lot of things that can be done with investments in terms of, data integration across state agencies. But broadly speaking, one of the most important things we can do is continue to maintain the course and our commitments to the big reforms that have been passed in the last 2-3 legislative sessions, because these are monumental changes. And yes, there will be things that are added on, like the 4-year outcomes-based funding, but, the looking at community colleges and the importance there and following through and making sure that there is both rigor and continued investment, all of that is going to be essential to, over the course of the decade as we approach 2036, we need to be prepared not just to do the new and exciting things, but follow through on the old and exciting things.
Sure. You gotta cover it all. So Commissioner, I want to give you the final thought here. Families listening right now, they maybe, like I said, they have a senior going into college, or a freshman thinking about going to college, whatever. What would you say to them as far as what this investment means in a higher education, whether it be a 4-year degree, an associate's, some sort of certificate? What does that investment mean for the individual and the family?
Well, I'll start I'll finish where I started, I guess, Brad. I'm a second-generation college student. Higher education pays off over generations. We now have the data. We've been talking about it to help young people choose the route that's best for them with labor market in mind, whether it be workforce or an academic pathway. So I would say mytexasfuture.org is a great place to start that journey, and have a caring adult sit down with a student and work through the questions and then just explore what the options are. So for the high school students, that's a great place to start. For the college graduates, again, whether it's a certificate up to a research doctorate, I'll say, if you're a second-generation college student or third-generation or fourth or beyond, thank those in your family before you who blazed the trail. If you're a first-generation college student, make sure you're not the last person in your family to pursue and earn a post-secondary credential.
Yeah.
So make sure that those that follow you understand that it's doable, that people like us are able to go to college. John said that earlier, that you can afford it, and to learn from maybe some of the mistakes that you made along the way, but don't be the last person in your family to earn a college credential.
Yeah, I think it's a great message. Well, Commissioner Rosser and John Hryhorchuk, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. So I thank you for being here. So the Texas story is one of possibility, and right now it's being written in real time by the student in Pecos who just earned a welding certificate, the working mother in Laredo who finished her associate degree, the first-generation graduate in Houston who is the first in her family to hold a university diploma. Texas 2036 is building the research and accountability infrastructure to make sure that story reaches every Texan. Commissioner Rosser and the team at the THECB are building the policy and funding infrastructure to back it up. For families listening, start at mytexasfuture.org. The next chapter of Texas Story starts there. Wynn, John, thank you both. Thanks to everyone listening. And this concludes Texas 2036 12-part Future of Texas podcast series with Texas Talks.